Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. Today we are going to talk some Street Fighter 6. We've talking some Street Fighter 6 lately because, hey, we had that balance patch. And actually, you could argue, well, that's part of what we're going to talk about is that balance patch. Because, Street Fighter doesn't get many balance patches. And we just got the one, we covered it in this video, but we just got the one, and did it really change much? Like, it changed the game's balance, yes, for a couple characters, yes, but it didn't change much realistically. No, not really, not in the grand scheme of things. And given that this is the first balance patch in half a year, you'd think maybe there'd be a little bit more. The last proper balance patch was the Season 3 patch, the one that dropped with Elena. That was June, that was a hot minute ago. And even though that was like the major seasonal patch, many would argue that the game barely changed even with that patch. And if the game barely changed, and the last change was 6 months ago, now we have this, which is only a handful of characters, and realistically the changes are not that big of a deal, the game's feeling a little dry. And it feels like some people are finally getting fed up with that. Even the Japanese audience, which famously doesn't complain that often. So we're going to talk about that, why it may be the case, and also how things kind of used to be. So, the first thing to talk about is that just most recent patch. I have said, and I'll stand by, it's better than literally nothing, but just getting by is not enough. It's not terribly exciting, especially since it's been so long since the last patch, and even that last seasonal patch didn't really do much. The effective point of a game that has, seasonal updates, new DLC, all that kind of stuff, is the game grows and evolves over time. And while the roster may be expanding slowly, but the roster is expanding, but the gameplay is not evolving along with it. And it's not to say stuff's not different from vanilla, right? Like, the parry changes, wider hurt box on whiff, and, the mid-low parry change, like that affects the game. It's different enough, but it's certainly nothing like the Street Fighter 4 or 5 days. And I mentioned, even the Japanese audience is getting kind of critical at this point, right? Here, North America, Europe crew, there's no shortage of us complaining, so I'll need to show you tweets, but I'll show you some tweets from the Japanese side of things. Like, famed grappler god, it is on. Glad adjustments are coming in, but hoping for a patch with a bit more playfulness. Shudo bringing up the fact they said they would do more patches, which they absolutely did say, and once every 6 months is not a lot, and frankly less than what they've been doing in the past. And saying, hey, want to see more patches, and he gets a sense they're playing to the pro scene, which is a common complaint we'll get to. Playing to the pro scene, and happy for that, he is a pro himself, but gets the impression this is a year that brought in boredom, especially for casuals, and looking for big changes next year. And amongst the Japanese audience, there's a lot of complaints that they're only paying attention to the pro scene. And realistically, the pro scene's infinitely small percent of the overall audience. Yes, the game's been selling good, all that kind of stuff. But, people are getting a little bored. Frankly, people want stuff to shake things up. When they posted the patch announcement on the official Japanese end, here's some tweets from the Japanese side point of view. There's 2 little changes. I'm starting to worry that everyone's getting bored. Disappointing. Don't just watch the pros and make no adjustments. Aren't you forgetting this is a game? Users want new ways to play. The game sold 6 million copies. How many pros are there? Is the pro side more important than the 5.99 million? Even through the, auto translation, I can feel the salt flowing from that one. And honestly, that's a fair point. I think keeping the competitive scene in mind is a very good thing for any competitive game, but you can't just cater to them. They're not the ones that sell the game. And realistically, it doesn't matter what the patches are. The competitive scene has to adjust to balance patches. They have no other option. If you leave things sort of static, I guess you help the pros to a degree, maybe to the detriment of everyone else, but even the pros are getting bored now, so there's no winning here. This fix isn't enough. Is this all after such a long time has passed? I thought we were supposed to make adjustments more frequently. Unless there's a big adjustment coming, I'll get bored. The adjustments are so shallow, it's no different from the once a year tweaks. Honestly, it's getting boring. Costumes barely come out at all, yet there are tons of irrelevant collaborations. Focus on the main game first and implement more substantial adjustments. So I guess the point here is whenever North America, Europe, or whatever complains, we always complain. It's in our DNA. It doesn't matter if things are good or bad, right? But when the Japanese audience is starting to get no, we're sick of this. This is dull. That's the wake up call. And to get out ahead of this, no one's saying Street Fighter 6 is a bad game. I'm pretty sure, well, just about all of us anyways, agree that it's a pretty damn cool game. But if you have been on the Street Fighter ride at all since Street Fighter 2, as long as this isn't your first game, we've been trained by Street Fighter to expect things to change and evolve over time. It's basically the Street Fighter business model. Balanced patches, like, okay, sure, whatever. But, balanced patches are usually a lot bigger than what we get in Street Fighter 6. And the frustrating thing is, too, at least for me, right? It's very clear with the balance design, they have favorites. They will play favorites with it, right? So someone like Ryu, a few patches back when Ryu got the rocket strapped to him. And people still complain about Ryu to this day because he went from like mid-tierish to like a very, very strong character. And it was by design. They forced the issue. They obviously wanted Ryu to be a strong competitive character, so they just gave him all the buffs in the world till he was. And then you take characters, and like, again, this is from my perspective, but you take characters like a Honda or a Lily. These characters are basically forgotten. Like, they might as well almost like delete them from the game. They clearly have no intentions of making these characters serious characters because, back when Season 1 was new, and a bunch, new players are trying, these were the characters people cried about. And because they engendered bad feelings, they're forgotten. So certain characters will get a rocket strapped to them if they feel it's good for their competitive environment and how they want to present the game in like an esports way. And a lot of characters fall by the wayside and there's like no intention to make them any better than they actually are. Like, look at Lily's patch history. It's honestly insulting. Like, actually, straight up. And unless there's a major shakeup with like new mechanics or something, I don't ever see Lily like doing anything realistically much as far as the game's concerned. And actually, quickly, while I was going through a lot of the Japanese players' concerns, it's funny how we weigh characters differently between Japan, North America, and Europe, right? Because over here on our side of the water, a lot of complaining about Ryu and how come Mai got nerfed but Ryu didn't get nerfed, right? I didn't see anyone complaining about Ryu from the Japanese side. Blanca, JP, and Ed, though, yeah, a lot of people are like, where are the nerfs for these characters? Always interesting how different people perceive balance. Anyways. So again, it's not that people are saying the game is bad. The game, however, is potentially going to be suffering a fate if things don't change soon. That's worse than bad, and that's boring. Boring can be as or potentially even more damaging than bad. Maybe they're scared of the Tekken 8 Season 2 situation, right? They don't want to rock the boat. And by not rocking the boat, they feel they're keeping their existing audience. Again, numbers, sales, all that's good, right? But if more and more people are just getting bored, when people are bored, they stop playing the game. People who don't play the game don't buy microtransactions. They don't buy the new seasonal DLC. I'd say they don't buy costumes, but Lord knows we haven't had many costumes for sale. And again, part of the reason why it's frustrating is Street Fighter players, if you've ever been in the Street Fighter ecosystem, you are built to expect change and big changes. Like, let's go back, not all the way to the beginning, but let's go back to say even to Street Fighter 4, so we don't have to go back to the 90s, right? So Street Fighter 4, we had Street Fighter 4, we had Super Street Fighter 4, we had Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, we had Ultra Street Fighter 4, right? Major revision titles, and all these brought new things. Like, it can be simple, like when the game was newer, we had Ultra 1, your big fancy signature attack, right? And that was cool, everyone loved the Ultras. Well, people complain about the Ultras back in the day too, comeback mechanics. Those are old fights, I'm not going to relitigate them. And after Vanilla, what happened? Super Street Fighter 4, right? Super Street Fighter 4 came in with new characters, major balance adjustments, not this small little rinky-dink stuff we're doing, right? And then Ultra 2, which introduced a lot of new ways to play for a lot of the cast. Like, it was a big deal. Like, for myself, one of my mains is Rose, right? And like back in the vanilla days, haha, ShamWow memes, all that kind of stuff, right? And the move was decent enough. I'm not going to say it was bad. But then we had Ultra 2 also, and her crouch heavy punch finally could actually anti-air people in Super. It could not in vanilla to save your life. Huge. But then come Super, we had Ultra 2. And let me tell you something. Soul Satellite reinvented this character. Rose with Soul Satellite is a completely different character than her Ultra 1 version, right? Just adding a new super move, like, might as well made her a new character. Like, it was such a big deal. I cannot stress this enough how huge that was for her. And that's just Super Street Fighter 4. Like, you're looking at the meter right now, you can see the W combo, right? So eventually, like, okay, and Later's revisions, like you can just have both ultras. They'll both do less damage, but you get the option for both. Sure. And they just would keep changing things, like in later revisions, like, hey, the focus attack, major part of Street Fighter 4. And then even later editions, right? How about red focus attack, right? So a new version of focus attack that changed how the game played. So not only are we getting new characters and, major balance updates, we're getting new ways to play the game with ultras, red focus, like new mechanics. Of course, that's not to say everything was a home run, unless you're a Yun Yang fan. Not many people loved Arcade Edition specifically, so it's not all roses and sunshine, but like, it kept people interested. They certainly weren't bored. Now, take a look at a game like Street Fighter V. Street Fighter V had so many major revisions to the gameplay, right? On top of balance changes and all that. Like something basic. We had V skills for every character and V triggers for every character. And they were, interesting, maybe some characters were better, some characters were worse, right? But they were interesting. And how do we shake the game up? As we would go through the seasons, major balance patches, seasonal costumes. Remember when we used to have Christmas costumes for the characters, Halloween costumes? We don't get those no more. But they would do things like, hey, we had V trigger and V skill. Why don't we keep adding to that? Then all of a sudden, every character gets a second V skill to work with. And again, this can radically change how the character plays. Some characters didn't feel complete until they got their V trigger too. And then again, okay, well, we have V skills. How about we give people a second V skill? So now everyone has 2 V skills. So these are major gameplay changes, not just balance changes, which were very common and very significant, unlike Street Fighter 6, right? We're having changes to the core gameplay loop for the entire cast with all new mechanics being added. And then, of course, later in the games, like, V-Shift. And V-Shift added another whole different way to play the game because it gave a lot of people some stronger defensive options that they might not have had otherwise because the game was sort of getting a little degenerate, right? But major mechanical changes, major gameplay changes. These are things that Street Fighter 6 doesn't have. The game is scared enough to just do basic balance changes, let alone actually shake up the gameplay. So again, for longer form Street Fighter fans, we have been trained to expect the game to evolve over time. Here we are year 3, halfway into year 3. We're closer now to year 4, really, if anything. And the core gameplay hasn't really evolved. Like, there's been some small tweaks to the systems, and there's been some balance changes, but nothing on the scale even close to how things used to be in older games, nor anywhere near the frequency. And, as some of those comments brought up before, like, hey, there's also not really any costumes, especially compared to Street Fighter V. There's this focus on collaborations, which don't really feel like a hit. Although they've said, they'll be working on that. We'll see, I guess. Again, Street Fighter 6 is not a bad game. We're not saying it's a bad game. No one's saying that. But they are kind of saying now, like, getting playing this day, they're just getting a bit bored. Playing it safe for too long can be a losing strategy in and of itself. A Street Fighter fan has been raised to expect change, and change is glacial in its pace at best in Street Fighter 6, if really happening at any major level at all. And I don't think that's changing anytime soon. Like, I do not expect a balance patch with Alex, because Alex will be the last character of Season 3, so whatever will be happening with Ingrid. As long as the established pattern holds true, Ingrid will be the start of Season 4. And is Season 4 where we finally shake things up? You could argue it's long overdue, in fact. Season 4 should be the long-awaited, and frankly leaked a long time ago, but plans change, Super Street Fighter 6. And this is where we need the shakeups. I'm talking an adventurous balance patch, not the stuff where we've been playing it far too safe for far too long. But more than that, new gameplay. Now, what form it could take, who knows? Because if there's anything planned, I'm sure none of us could properly guess it, but some form of new gameplay to keep people invested. It could be in the form of a new universal mechanic, maybe new super moves for the characters, give them a new way to play, new special moves. There's a lot of ways we can do it, but just balance changes, it's been so long that even like a serious balance change patch, maybe not enough anymore. We need something like Street Fighter is known for, right? The name change and the mechanics changing. Because if something like that doesn't happen, like a big balance shakeup and maybe some new things to help change how the game is played, things could get bad for Street Fighter 6. Again, no one's going to say it's a bad game. But if nothing major shakes up, it'll remain the perfectly good game it is, and then people will move on. 2026 is a big year for fighting games. Invincible Versus, Marvel Tokon, the new Avatar fighting game, which has become so much more well received than I think people ever thought possible. Like, it can be a serious contender. The new Virtual Fighter. No, probably not. I wish. That'd be nice, right? But probably not. But you never know. Already existing games that'll get more updates, 2X, KO, Tekken 8, all that kind of stuff. There's a whole slew of interesting indie games coming out. So a lot of people who play Street Fighter 6 can be like, okay, yeah. Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun. You know, it was cool. And then they go play something else. With the potential competition heating up with so many new entries in a lot of games and other games updating, all that kind of stuff, people are competing for your fighting game time and eyeballs, right? And if Street Fighter just does the same old, and leaves people completely unimpressed in terms of like how the game is changing or evolving, people will still like the game and then they'll just move on to something else. Like, it is effectively a live service game, right? And live service games keep their customer base because they keep things interesting through a myriad of ways, depends on the game, but like basically none of these ways that Street Fighter 6 is currently doing. Capcom, Monster Hunter, it's out the door, it's done. Resident Evil, it's going to be released soon. You gotta focus back on the game you're intending to support for years and years and years, otherwise you might lose your spot. Again now, boredom is the enemy. Playing it too safe for too long has done damage, unfortunately, and people are kind of getting tired of it. That all said, that's my thoughts on the matter, and I would sincerely love to hear your thoughts about just how everything is going on the Street Fighter front. Do you want to see changes? Do you want to see balance changes? Do you want to see big balance changes? Do you want to see new mechanics? What do you want to see out of Street Fighter 6? For me, whatever Season 4 may hold, because I don't think anything's changing until Season 4, I hope Season 4 is Super Street Fighter 6, and they change up things in a pretty major way, but that's just me. Anyways, though, my friends, that's it for me. That's it for the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Street Fighter.